Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and today is Veterans Day, and this is the day we say thank you to those currently serving, those who have served, and those who have given their all that we may be free. And what an honor to have in the studio with us today retired Colonel Dave Dotterrer. He's certainly no stranger, but today he's in full uniform on this Veterans Day, and we want to talk to him about what it means to him and some of the stories that he have. And Colonel, nice to see you. And again, thank you for your service.
You betcha.
How are you
Proud
doing?
to have done it. I'm doing great.
Good.
Doing great. So Veterans Day is always a special day.
Oh, I would imagine it is, and it certainly is for all of us. I saw a little sign, I think we're all kind of quoting it today. It says, Thanksgiving is where we thank God for all the things that we have. Veterans Day is we thank those who made sure we have the things that we have.
Right.
So we want to say thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, tell us, you're in full uniform today. You got a lot of medals there. Quickly, give us a little bit of history of your service.
Well, I served for 27 years. Came out of Oregon State University in the NROTC program. Went into the Marine Corps as an infantry officer. My first tour was overseas in the Far East, and I served in a battalion that actually evacuated Saigon. I was in the Vietnam War. My Vietnam service was the last couple of days of that, so I was right in the middle of all that chaos that you saw. And
wow.
And I was on board those aircraft carriers when they were pushing helicopters off the side, watching all of that. It was quite an experience for a young lieutenant. I was 23 at the time. I had a rifle platoon of 40 Marines. Actually in downtown Saigon, around the area, and
wow.
and then I went on to serve as at the ceremonial unit in Washington D.C., working in that issue. And then actually, what's interesting is I did that as a lieutenant, and then 20 years later, I went back as a colonel to command that unit.
Really?
So I did 2 tours at the Marine Barracks in Washington D.C., which is the Marine Corps ceremonial unit in the national capital. In between. Well, as my wife likes to say, in 27 years, we made 17 moves. So I don't want to go through all of those with you.
Yeah.
But for everybody who's had to make moves, you know what that is like, especially when you have children and everything like that.
Yeah.
And God bless the fact that my wife has been so supportive, and the kids learned all those things. And now my son's a Marine, and he's moving around doing exactly the same
Really?
thing. So yeah, that's exactly right. So.
Wow. So today's a very special day. Obviously, you probably have some incredible stories, but have you selected a couple you'd like to share?
I like to tell this story. Toward the end of my career, I was the military assistant to the Secretary of the Navy. And the Secretary of the Navy is also the Secretary of the Marine Corps. So he actually has 2 military assistants. He has a Navy captain and a Marine colonel, and I was that colonel.
Wow.
Well, one of my jobs was to travel everywhere with him. And your viewers will probably remember toward the end of the 90s, John Glenn, who was a Marine, was a Marine, is a Marine, they blasted him back off to space again. Remember the space shuttle?
Yeah,
and he was
right.
in his 80s.
Yeah. Okay.
So he invites the Secretary of the Marine Corps to come down and watch this. And so we fly on down, and I will tell you that it's really cool to watch a space shuttle launch in person.
Wow.
I mean, it really is. So I'm standing there waiting for the liftoff, and a man walks up to me and says, "Hello, Marine. I'm Ted Williams." That Ted Williams. That Ted Williams. And what people don't realize is that Ted Williams was a Marine, and he also, John Glenn was a Marine fighter pilot in Korea. His wingman was Ted Williams.
Whoa.
They pulled Ted Williams out of baseball for 3 or 4 years. He lost 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, think what his record would look like if he had those 3 or 4 seasons back.
Wow.
to fly during World War II and also during the Korean War. So we're standing there, and Ted says, "Well, hey, Colonel, is it okay if I watch this with you?" And I thought, well, I'm just this kid from Eugene, Oregon. Sure, Ted, you're more than welcome to watch this with me. So we're standing there waiting for the liftoff, and completely unsolicited, out of the blue, Ted looks up at me, because he was in a wheelchair at this point in his life. He looks up at me and he says, "Colonel, the most important thing in my life was not playing baseball. The most important thing in my life was being a United States Marine."
Wow.
And
wow.
now that's the secular side of his life. I don't know what his religious beliefs are, but here's somebody who has achieved greatness that most of us, whatever our endeavors, are never going to get there. And at the end of his life, what was important to him was to be a Marine, and he was a veteran. Wow. That's what was important to him. And I just kind of let that sink in a little bit. So I like to tell that story. It's a great story for veterans, and veterans need to remember that of where they've been, who they are, and what they've done, and they need to cling to that, because that clearly was what was important to Ted Williams.
What do you think of the military today? I mean, I know that's a huge question,
Wow.
but the point is that it's getting a lot of criticism, and yet it's getting a lot of praise. And there are young people who are drawn to it. But looking back from the time you served to where it is today, do you see a difference?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I came into the military at the end of the Vietnam War, and I don't think Americans really understand how close they were to losing their military. It was a bad time. I mean, we had race problems. I'll tell this story. We know that if a young man or woman graduates from high school, that they're going to be much more successful. I had a rifle platoon of 40 Marines. 5 of us were high school graduates. Everybody else was just didn't made it through school and everything. The caliber is unbelievable. And turned around drugs and everything. So I actually, when I look back on my career, having worked through that and watched how we fixed that problem to get to where we are today, where the military is, if not the most, one of the most respected organizations in the United States today. I mean, if you look at those polls, that's what it shows. And that's very important. And we worked really hard at that to get to that point. Sure, we're not perfect. We don't claim to be, but when you look back over where we are right now, it's tremendous.
I was being drafted right in the middle of the Vietnam War, and I didn't get drafted. I had medical deferment, but I was on the bus with a bunch of guys. I'll never forget that day. I mean, I went off to Oakland, and here we go. And I'm sitting next to a guy who was a senior in college, and he was taken immediately. And we stayed somewhat in correspondence, and today his name's on the wall there at the Vietnam Memorial. And it's a stunning thing when you see those things. I'm wondering if we understand fully the price that's been paid for our liberty today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's incredible. The things we used to say in Marine infantry, life isn't fair. You know, this is a hard way to do things, and the fact that we have people that are willing to step forward and do this, and your acquaintance there now he's on the wall. Yeah, I mean, we can't forget those people.
You can't forget them. Are we as ready today as we were when you served?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, I look back again at the beginning of my career. We are far better off than when we were. I mean, it was
just technologically alone.
Right, but the caliber of people that we have and their dedication to serve. I mean, it was all the veterans who come out of that era of the Vietnam War in the 70s and all will tell you they know that was a really tough time, because morale was so low.
It's a brotherhood that those of us who haven't served in the military and those of you who have, it's a brotherhood that's undescribable.
It is. I had got an email from an officer who served with me, and he went on to be a infantry battalion commander in Iraq, and he talks about standing in front of his Marines at an award ceremony, and he said, people don't, unless you've been there, you can't understand the camaraderie, and you can't understand the dedication to the point of death. You know, I will die for you. You are my brother. I will take care of you. And those kinds of feelings are so deep.
So they are, and I don't want to go political here, but on the other hand, you just made the statement, you are willing to die for your brother. I mean, that was what you signed up for.
Absolutely.
What do you think when all of a sudden you get an order to stand down?
You know, you're asking that constitutional question, which says one of the interesting things of what America has always done is when you swear your oath to the Constitution of the United States, and you're obligated to follow that Constitution. And you were taught in the military that, you know, it's at some point you may just have to say, you know what, that is an illegal order. That is contrary to the Constitution. And military people, particularly officers, are taught that. That's why you have this professional officer corps that stays apolitical, because everybody knows that don't play games with that. And that goes all the way back to George Washington. George Washington made sure that that was in.
Because two of the Benghazi deaths were men who broke away and went in to save their comrades. That's
right.
Quite a deal.
Right. No. And those stories are legion. I mean, I can. Well, there's a great story of a Marine in Korea where he was given an order over the radio that he knew the people in the rear didn't understand the situation, and he knew that if he did this, he was going to lose his Marine. So he just reached over, turned off his radio. And then and the guy went on to be the commandant of the Marine Corps, 4-star general. So it's not like you can't survive these. And those are important pieces.
What are you in for today? You're in full uniform. You're going to several recognitions today.
I'm going to 3 actually. I'm going to the Central Point. Fallen war heroes. I'm standing in. Dennis Richardson asked me to stand in for him, and Congressman Walden speaking there. Then I'm going at noon to the SOU Veterans Luncheon. And then at 2 o'clock, I'm also going to a dedication of a Korean War Memorial at the Memorial Park, Veterans Memorial Park in Medford. So there's lots of events going on today.
Well, again, thank you, Colonel, for your service and for your dedication. And thank you again for taking on another war front, and that's running politically. And we'll have you back on that on another day.
That's right.
Blessings to you.
Right.
Okay.
Blessings to you. Thank you.
We'll be right back.